Hello, BoomSimple Pub Battles here, and I want to talk about my Home Brew Rules. Let me start out by saying that I'm happy to play with the tried and true rules as officially put out by Command Post Games. Pub Battles is quite a robust system, and you can add all sorts of rules. These can be fun or satisfying, but I find most of them ultimately to be unnecessary. I'm very leery of adding any rules other than those that smooth play or make it quicker, easier. Because one by one, the rules you might want to add aren't that complicated, don't add that much, but together they tend to bog down the whole system and turn it into something else. Remember, Pub Battles is first and foremost a command-focused system, not a combat-focused system. In fact, the intent of the rules are to lock you out from too many tactical decisions, too much micromanaging. There are plenty of systems out there that deal with combat on a much more detailed level, but there are not many that feel like you're running an army, like you're managing the whole battle. So I have accumulated a few house rules, and I don't even use them all the time. If I'm going along and the game's going smooth, I don't bother with some of these because it just doesn't matter in the whole grand scheme of things. I like a smooth, quick play battle. But here's a few things that I have added. You might consider using these yourself. My first home rule deals with cavalry. Currently, infantry can retreat from cavalry in combat. That feels a little funny. My simple home rule is foot retreating from cavalry are eliminated. It just feels wrong to resolve a round of combat, mounted, charging foot, and then have the foot retreat while the mounted just sit there. Now note, I'm not talking about the chit draw, because in that case you can think of it as the infantry moved away or for whatever reason the cavalry didn't get the charge they wanted. Good enough. I'm talking about in combat, as a result of combat, if infantry must retreat, they're eliminated. Artillery. Currently, when artillery becomes spent, it can no longer bombard. It's still very deadly in melee combat, but it cannot bombard. My homebrew rule is spent artillery can bombard. Originally, before the baggage train rules, units that weren't contacted by the enemy that didn't move could flip from spent back up to fresh. Now, that requires a baggage train to be unpacked. Now, if you just allow artillery to continue bombard even if spent, they're still very vulnerable, but they're not essentially out of the game unless combat comes up. Anyway, that's the artillery rule. The next rule I have says that if you have one hit on a fresh block, it can either flip to spent, as per the ordinary rules, or it can remain fresh, but it has to fall back. It has to retreat. This almost becomes too top-down fiddly, but I think that it's a way of showing the Corps commander said, hold that hill no matter what, in which case they're going to hold unless they're pushed back. On the other hand, there may be instances where the Corps commander says, no, I'm not going to sacrifice my troops at this point. Let's use a little discretion here. So you get one hit and they pull back, but now they're still fresh. Ordinarily, suffering one hit in combat happens 1 in 4 times. So it's not like it happens a whole lot. So as much sense as this rule makes, doesn't come up that often. So I wouldn't make this an official rule, but it's an optional rule if you'd like it. And of course, militia, who if they suffer 1 hit, counted as 2 hits, can't use this option, which makes sense. Militia are not steady enough you can't routinely say, no, they're going to hold. Support. A supporting block may choose to suffer any or all of the hits in combat. When this rule gains the most utility is when you have an infantry block supporting an artillery block. And now you suffer 3 hits. So you can flip the artillery to spent, retreat the artillery back. You have a supporting unit, and you can take a hit off that and flip it to spent. Or if it was spent already, retreat it back as well. All 3 hits are accounted for, and the artillery are not sacrificed. You can also imagine elite troops or grenadier regiments stiffening the line and ignoring that first hit. Now this next one is also very optional. Artillery can't support in combat. That's the rule. But sometimes if you move artillery up and you want them to take the place of the infantry in line and have the infantry support the artillery, moving up and getting within the current rules, moving up and getting the artillery in front and the infantry behind, that can often take, if you don't have everything lined up just right, that can take a long time and be kind of difficult. So what I say is if you move your artillery up to a supporting position, then you can just flip them around with the artillery in front. And my final home rule, woods. I have rules for woods because black powder era armies tended to avoid woods. Modern armies like to hide in the woods and they can sneak around and stuff. Black powder armies focused on maneuvering in column, maneuvering in formation, and command control was dependent on sight. And troops were steadier if they could have their buddies around them, fellow troops nearby. It's very easy to panic if you get separated. So here are my woods rules. If you get fired at and you're in woods, the attacker subtracts 1. That's the current rule, but in that current rule, somebody attacked, somebody's defending, only one person subtracts 1. I'm saying if they both are in cover, both combatants subtract 1. A block in woods cannot recover from spent. That requires command control that just doesn't exist in the woods at this point in history. Command range does not extend beyond line of sight in woods. So if you've got a guy on the edge of the woods, your command range you can order that guy to attack. But once you're deep in the woods, no. But command range always extends to adjacent units. So in the woods, if your HQ unit is adjacent to a block, it's in command. Now obviously, Corps and Army commanders did not need to be in the woods. All the lower level commanders were capable of ordering their troops to attack. But this gives the feel when you're operating an army and you've got part of your army is in the woods. By requiring the HQ to be in the woods, and it can't be somewhere else then, it's showing you, it's simulating that to operate in the woods takes a drain on your command resources. Alright, so let's summarize this. Foot retreating from cavalry are eliminated. Spent artillery may fire. A fresh block that suffers 1 hit may either flip to spent or retreat fresh. Supporting blocks may choose to suffer any of the hits in the combat they are supporting. When artillery contacts a friendly unit from behind, they can flip to the front. Woods. Command range does not extend beyond line of sight in woods. Now line of sight in woods is the depth of 1 block. That's 3/8 of an inch. So it is possible for an HQ to command 2 units side by side that are within 3/8 of an inch of the HQ block. Please let me know in the comments below if you have any questions or comments about these home rules of mine. Thank you.